check out ESPN Film's newly released 30 for 30 podcasts. From the producers of our award-winning documentary series, this is an amazing collection of sports stories you need to hear to believe. Speaking of amazing, Delta Airlines and the Fly Delta app make your travel experience amazingly easy with real-time bag tracking, e-boarding, and passport scanning during check-in. And don't forget to download 30 for 30 podcasts to fill your flight with stories that will keep you coming back for more.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show. Coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airways of ESPN Radio. That's 98.7 FM, New York City. That's 710 ESPN LA. And, of course, nationwide over the airways of ESPN Radio, Sirius XM style, Channel 80. Number to call up, as always, is 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Lots of stuff to get into today. Whole bunch of stuff to get into today. We've got the Kyrie trade to Boston that might be falling apart. We don't know what's going on. We've got Art Briles. That subject is something that we absolutely positively must tackle on a day like today. And, of course, we have the top story going on in the NFL, and that is of Ezekiel Elliott. Of course, all our hearts and minds are aimed in the direction of Houston, Texas, and its surrounding areas due to the flooding that has taken place. A few lives lost. Just catastrophic circumstances. Our hearts and prayers are with everybody in that area, hoping that folks remain safe. And, you know, kudos to the great J.J. Watt for the Houston Texans, for donating his time and his money to the cause and bringing attention, even more so. Not that it needs to be, because everybody's got their eyes on that right now. And open our wallets, open our hearts, and do what we can. One of the beautiful, beautiful things that I've seen, at least on the television screens, over the last 24 hours or so, is that at a time, just days removed from talking about the divide that exists within this country, based off of what transpired in Charlottesville, Virginia, and beyond, and the protests that were taking place, and wondering where our nation had gone, whether it had lost its moral compass and what have you. It's beautiful to see people extending their hearts and a helping hand to those in need, the way that people have been doing to the folks in Houston, Texas, and its surrounding areas due, the Hurricane Harvey and, the flooding and everything else that has emanated from it all. So we'll continue to talk about those things, and anything that we can do, let's make sure that we come together and we do it, because in the end, we're all Americans. We've got to look out for one another. It's what makes this country great. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. There's an appeal hearing that's taking place today. Ezekiel Elliott for the Dallas Cowboys, reportedly to testify today in regards to his suspension. For those of you who don't know, he was suspended for 6 games by the NFL, specifically Commissioner Roger Goodell, in light of altercations and allegations of domestic violence against his ex-girlfriend, a lady by the name of Tiffany Thompson. I'm only bringing up her name because it's all over the reports. Something that we were reluctant to do weeks ago, but she's been in the news, been in the reports. That's her name. She told the All-Pro, she told police that the All-Pro running back had hit her while they were sitting in a parked car in Columbus, Ohio in July of 2016. According to a 160-page report based off an investigation instigated by the National Football League. On July 17th, 19th, and 21st of 2016, there were 5 separate incidences in which Ezekiel Elliott got into an altercation with this young lady. Bruises on her arms, her neck, her back, her wrist, etc. They were all listed in the report, and as a result of it, He was suspended for 6 games. Now, a lot of people have different opinions about it because there's an appeal process that's taking place, and I have no problem with the appeal. The appeal is being heard today. The NFL is the judge, jury, executioner, and the appellate courts. You can have a problem with that all you want to. It's their right under the collective bargaining agreement. Get the hell over it. Makes no sense to argue about something, a fact that you can't change. In the case of Ezekiel Elliott, it really comes down to the kind of disagreement my man Max Kellerman and I had on First Take this morning and even weeks ago. We both agree that if he's guilty, shut the hell up and go away and accept your penance and be happy it wasn't worse. But if he proclaims his innocence, and that's what he intends to do, Max Kellerman is of the mindset that you fight it to the Supreme Court if you have to, or pretty damn close, similar to what Tom Brady did. Because he believes that somehow, some way, that is going to have an impact in a court of public opinion. I say, hell no. Take your behind and go home. And it ain't just because of the notion where there's smoke, there's fire. 5 separate incidences over 3 separate days? July 17th, 19th, and 21st of last year? You innocent in all of them? All of them? How the hell you allow yourself in that situation if you're so innocent? 5 times? But even if some miracle happened and you are innocent of it all, here's the problem. You can't sway the court of public opinion anyway. This ain't the court of law. You weren't arrested. You weren't prosecuted. You weren't indicted. This is the court of public opinion. How the hell can you win that? What you going through all of that for? So everybody knows? One press conference for an hour, taking questions from the media while emphatically stating your innocence. If that is indeed what you are, Ezekiel Elliott should do the trick. Period. Taking this to all layers of the courts. Nonsense. NFL doesn't have the burden of proof laid on their shoulders. As they executed against in a whole Deflategate fiasco, all they have to do is say that it's more likely than not that you are guilty of X, Y, and Z in their mind. And as a result, you have stained and sullied the shield. We're going to hold you out from playing. Period. Now, if you want to fight to get your money back, you want to fight to have the suspensions reduced based off of that premise, fine. But if you are unsuccessful in this appeal, to have this dragging on more and more and more, that's your name being raked through the coals associated with domestic violence. And how many people are going to believe that you, the same dude who knew you were being investigated but still pulled on a girl's shirt to show her cleavage in public while you were on a boat for a parade, or was alleged to have been in some kind of altercation in a bar while you were on the investigation, who's giving you the benefit of the doubt? And ladies and gentlemen, that's with this girl being in the report, essentially exposed for lying and trying to extort money from him and threatening to ruin his career and his life. All of that's in the report. And they still gave Ezekiel Elliott 6 games. Because what they're saying is, regardless of how amoral she may be in all of this, it didn't warrant you putting your hands on her. That's what they're saying. Now, we don't know how guilty Ezekiel Elliott is of any of this. What we do know is what the NFL believes. And since the NFL is judge, jury, executioner, and the appellate court, the only way to wiggle your way around this is to make this every bit as much of a legal issue as Tom Brady did. Tom Brady was fighting for his good name in terms of the fact that he wouldn't cheat the game of football by trying to use deflated footballs to do his thing. If you are Ezekiel Elliott, you are fighting to not have your name associated with domestic violence. And how the hell do you pull that off? By keeping yourself in the news because of it. I just don't get it. I really don't. 866-729-ESPN is the number to call up. That's 866-729-3776. Speaking of Houston, what I was talking about earlier, I want to play Max Kellerman's final take on First Take today, which I thought was outstanding. And I think every one of us, all of us, needs to hear. So I'll play that a little bit later on in the show. Plus, Dan Rafael, boxing writer extraordinaire for ESPN.com and ESPN family. He'll be on that line with us to talk about that fight from Saturday night involving Mayweather and McGregor. Stick around. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Want to be a part of the show? Hit Stephen A. up weekdays from 1 to 3 Eastern at 866-729-3776. Okay, Kevin, for the grand prize of $1 million. What color is the White House?
I know this.
5 seconds.
Oh, switching to Geico could save you a bunch of money on car insurance?
Okay.
Judges? That's true, Kevin. They'll allow it. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Woo!
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
No charges were ever brought against Ezekiel Elliott. However, as the Columbus City Attorney's Office said, the information related to the case was, quote, conflicting and inconsistent, according to ESPN.com's Jean-Jacques Taylor. You got to remember when the league decided to suspend Elliott and wrote in a letter that advisors to NFL Special Counsel for Conduct Todd Jones felt, quote, there is substantial and persuasive evidence supporting a finding that Elliott engaged in physical violence against Ms. Thompson on multiple occasions during the week of July 16th, 2016. What else is there to say? I mean, really. Where are we going here, ladies and gentlemen? I personally don't see how Ezekiel Elliott can get out of this. And to me, if Roger Goodell in the league office, Mr. Henderson, don't lessen this penalty, you have no recourse. You better hope they do it. Better hope they do it. Listen, and let me remind y'all of Ezekiel Elliott's tweet upon learning of a 6-game suspension. Quote, I am both surprised and disappointed by the NFL's decision today, and I strongly disagree with the league's findings. I recognize the distraction and disruption that all of this has caused my family, friends, teammates, the Dallas Cowboys organization, as well as my fans. For that, I am sincerely sorry. I admit that I am far from perfect, but I plan to continue to work very hard on and off the field to mature and earn the great opportunity that I have been given. Ladies and gentlemen, did you hear anything there that where he said, I'm innocent? Did he say anything there? Ladies and gentlemen, can we put this in perspective, please? But now you're going to go up to Roger Goodell's office and try to claim what? What exactly? I'm just asking. Let's go to Kevin in New Jersey. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Kev?
Hey, Stephen A., good afternoon.
Go ahead.
Listen, I said this before, and I'll say it again. He did it. He did it. Listen, this has nothing to do with white, black, blue, or green. I'm a black man of a certain age. I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, and I have daughters. He did it. He can sit here and tap dance all he wants, but I want to ask you a question, Stephen A. Smith.
Yes, sir.
Where in God's name was her mother and father or someone to pull her out of that situation when it first happened. Okay, when it second happened, when it third happened, when it where?
Well, the only part that gets tricky about that, sir, is that you're on a college campus. You just never know. I mean, sometimes things happen so quickly. You know, it was over a 5-day span, but, you know, you're away at college. But I will say this, on at least 2 occasions, you know, they talked about how her mother took pictures or something like that. I don't know. I really don't know how to answer that question, man.
Well, I thank you, Stephen A. Smith, for being on the air. You are very passionate about what you do. I appreciate everything you do and say. Have a good day. I'm going to be listening to the rest of the show. God bless. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Look, all I'm saying is this. You know, this notion that this guy should be fighting with the league office over such, I don't understand how that works for you. I really, really don't. I don't get that. This isn't deflated footballs. And even with the deflated football issue, I kept saying, Tom Brady, take your punishment, man. Fight for what? You ain't going to beat the commissioner. You're going to serve them 4 games. That's exactly what I said. And I kept saying it. And people are like, no, you got to fight to that out. Please stop it. Footballs were deflated. Serve the games. Because the more you fought the commissioner, the more he was going to hunker down. Because you're trying to challenge the power of the commissioner's office, and he wasn't going to let you do that. You are entitled to appeal. That's collectively bargained. He is entitled to assign somebody to hear the case. That's collectively bargained. But once you take it to that next level, now you're challenging the power of the commissioner's office. And it's one thing when you're Tom Brady and the issue is deflated football. This is domestic violence. And all you got in the NFL is 1 year under your belt, and you think you're going to usurp the power of the commissioner's office? What drug y'all smoking? He better drop this and move on. All right, get your appeal heard today. Try to get some of that money back. Try to get the penalty of the games lessened. I get it. But if it fails here, go home. You don't want to be in the news for all of this. You don't want it. I'm sorry. That's just how I feel about it. Terrence in the Bronx, you're live with Stephen A. What's up, man?
Stephen A., hey, man, I love your work. I watch all your shows. You are absolutely right. This guy, if you're innocent, you scream it from the high heavens. And those words you said, he never said, I did not do it. So to me, that says that he's culpable with that situation. Number one, it's the same guy, draft night, got caught having sex with like a girl who put it on Instagram or whatever. This guy
wait a minute. That has nothing to do with this. I mean, who he decided to hook up with, as long as it's consensual and they're adults, that's none of our business.
You're absolutely right. I'm just saying in terms of him thinking clearly, this guy.
I'm just saying, a night like the night you get drafted in the NFL and you suddenly recognize you're going to be a millionaire just to be a professional athlete, you'd be in that kind of mood. I can't knock him for that.
No, I understand. I'm just saying his judgment. That just calls into play his judgment.
Well, if she's the one that put it on Instagram instead of him, how is that his judgment?
Well, he fell asleep with a girl he just met that night. I understand what you're saying, Stephen.
Okay.
Let's go past that. You're right. But in terms of pulling up the shirt, when you come in the league, you got to understand you got to always protect the shield. And I don't think he's done his best to try to protect the shield. He should take his 6 games, sit down, get his mind right, go see some people, try to, be with his family, because I know he embarrassed his family. I know his family's a good family.
His father don't seem as embarrassed. His father seems defiant that his son is innocent, and he's determined to clear his name.
Oh, that's wrong. He needs to call, he needs to basically...
yeah, that's what I'm getting from help. Pops. All right.
He needs to get some help.
I appreciate it. No problem. 866-729-ESPN. It's 866-729-3776. We'll continue with the Stephen A. Smith Show. Get a little bit into the Kyrie Irving, LeBron James situation in Cleveland, and, of course, the trade for Kyrie Irving to Boston and how it has the potential to fall apart. We'll revisit that subject and then some. So stick around. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Get back to the phone calls on Zeke Elliott before I get to Dan Rafael. talking about Mayweather-McGregor's fight Saturday night, which is expected to generate in excess of $700 million, a 70 to 30% split for Mayweather with McGregor. Before I get into any of that, let me also bring this up to the hearing for the trade in regards to for the deadline for, everything that goes with it for Kyrie Irving going to Boston in exchange for Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, some European player, and a first-round pick that belonged to the Brooklyn Nets that Boston got in trading Paul Pierce and KG there. Before I go into any of that, let me make sure I let y'all know that, it's going to be a dicey situation. There's no way around it. It's going to be a dicey situation for Cleveland and Boston. If you're Cleveland, Kyrie wants out. Even though I'm telling you, I've spoken to numerous players on that team, and they all love Kyrie and want him to stay. You're Cleveland brass. You don't want to bring Kyrie back because Kyrie Irving and LeBron James don't need to be in the same locker room for this upcoming season because it'll be an absolute circus. So that much is a given. In the case of Boston, might be even worse because you don't want to bring Isaiah Thomas back because Isaiah Thomas desperately wanted to stay in Boston, and his feelings were hurt that he got traded, and he knows that he got traded because Danny Ainge and the Boston Celtics don't want to give him max dollars at $177 million. That's why Isaiah Thomas got traded. He's hurt by it. He's emotional about it. And if you're Danny Ainge and those guys, you don't want to bring Isaiah Thomas back. You really, really don't. You want to make sure that, this trade is consummated so you can move on with Kyrie and Isaiah Thomas can move on with his life. And be clear, Isaiah Thomas is not just hurt because he was traded. He's hurt because of why he was traded. Danny Ainge could bring up hip injuries and all this stuff all he wants to. Isaiah Thomas could be 100% healthy. He's 5'9". And Danny Ainge is reluctant to dole out $177 million to this kid. Even though he averaged 28 a game, even though he was third in the league MVP voting and all of this other stuff, Danny Ainge and those guys are reluctant in Boston to give Isaiah Thomas that money. Isaiah Thomas would not be salty if they paid him money and traded him. What he's salty about is that he gave his heart and soul, his blood, sweat, and tears to Boston. Even after his sister died, he didn't take any time off. He showed up back on that court and he performed and he balled. And Isaiah Thomas's position, in all likelihood, is, damn, I just want to get paid. If they paid him and then traded him, he might not have liked it, but there would be nothing to be salty about because at least he got his money. But they traded him entering the last year of his deal with his hip not 100% healthy. And as a result, he's got to wonder whether or not he's going to be healthy enough to perform. And because that's up in the air, it's also up in the air whether or not he'll get his money. That's what's driving Isaiah crazy. But we'll see what happens. As it pertains to Carmelo Anthony, I don't know what the hell is going on. He wants to go to Houston. Doesn't look like that's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't look like Houston can find a third team. Maybe a miracle could happen and it could change up and they can end up finding that, but it doesn't look like that right now. We shall see what happens. Chris in L.A., you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Stephen A. Just real quick, I want to touch on the whole Kyrie Isaiah thing. And I agree with you 1,000%. I don't believe that Kyrie can't be back in Cleveland. And I listen to you say that there's guys, you've heard guys say that they would embrace him back. But it's not about any of those other guys. It's about 23 in that uniform. Like, if LeBron and Kyrie have friction, then it won't work. And you also have to take in consideration that we don't even know if LeBron's going to be there after this season. So I don't blame Kyrie one bit for wanting to take his own rights into controlling his own destiny. So we can't be mad at him. As far as
I think my reticence in regards to Kyrie Irving and the media and everybody else, don't paint this guy as a bad guy. He's not a bad guy. He's a champion. And if he has the confidence in himself that he could go someplace else and be a number one option and make things happen, I don't think we should have a problem with that. I don't think we should treat him like he's some scrub that's overplaying his hand. Kyrie's a bad somebody, man. This brother can ball. Let's show respect where it's due. I'm not saying you're not, but there's some people that haven't, and I think they're wrong. But go ahead, Chris.
I agree, Stephen A. All right, and real quick about the Isaiah thing, and you're right on that as well. I actually feel bad for him because you got a guy who put out last year was in the MVP discussion, but now he's going to have to potentially perform for another team to try to prove to them why he's worth the X amount of dollars that he believes he's worth. That's in case in point to what you said about him. Even if he got paid and got traded, he wouldn't be, as you put it, salty. But now he didn't get paid, but they traded him. He's going to have to go out
and it's up in the air. And it's up in the air whether or not he's going to get paid because he's not 100% out.
Exactly, Stephen. And so I agree 1,000% that Isaiah should be upset. So with that being said, what do you think happens on Thursday if the trade is vetoed? It doesn't go through.
I don't think the trade gets vetoed. I don't think the trade gets vetoed. I think they'll find a way to work it out, even if it means neither gets. I think I think Cleveland's got a chance to at least get another second round pick. That's about it. I don't think anything else.
Anything else in return?
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, Boston ain't getting nothing. Boston ain't getting nothing in return. Boston ain't getting Boston not getting nothing and not getting anything in return. I think Cleveland's got a chance to get another pick. But if you Boston, you actually could ask for something considering all that you gave away. You never know.
Right, you never know.
So Cleveland got to be careful.
Thank you. Take care, man.
Thanks a lot. Let's go to Philip in Texas. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Stephen A., I appreciate you taking my call.
Thank you.
I was actually just real quick, I wanted to talk about Isaiah. Don't you think that it's a little much for him to be asking? I understood that he played 1 year at a max contract play, but he's asking for 4 years max contract whenever he's really only got that one good year under his belt.
Whoa. He averaged 29 points a game. He averaged over 20 the year before. He's proven himself to be a miniature scoring machine in the NBA. And by the way, he's been in the league for years. This man is getting $6.2 million, man. Kyle Lowry is getting paid more than him. John Wall is getting paid more than him. And think about the numbers that they have on the table. While Kyrie is in the midst of a $90 million contract, Phillip, Kyle Lowry is getting over $150 million. You've got John Wall, who signed a $170 million extension. You got Steph Curry, who got $207 million. You got Russell Westbrook, who literally has a $217 million extension waiting for him on the table to sign. The only one of them who are champions is Steph Curry. And oh, by the way, the Clippers were willing to give the 32-year-old Chris Paul $207 million. These are guys that are getting over $100 million more than Kyrie Irving. You don't think he should have a problem with that?
I'm just saying that a lot of them have played at a high level for a long time, and there's a reason that Isaiah's been traded around quite a bit.
What level has Kyle Lowry, John Wall, or even a Russell Westbrook or a Chris Paul played to the point that they deserve more than $100 million more than Kyrie Irving?
No, I'm not saying that he shouldn't get a extremely good pay raise, but I'm not sure I would give him a max value contract.
I think Kyrie Irving in today's NBA climate is worth max dollars. You see, here's where your thinking goes awry, Phillip. Okay, your whole thing is that are you a superstar or are you box office, right? Ain't that what you're thinking? Huh, Phillip?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me ask you this question: how many guys are there? How many guys are those in the league?
I wouldn't even be able to guess. I mean, I'm sure
you couldn't name seven.
I'm thinking, I'm sure top 10.
You couldn't name seven. So what I'm saying to you is this: there's 30 teams in the NBA. Don't tell me that Kyrie can't be a number one option for somebody. Gordon Hayward just signed for $130 million. $130 million. I'm sorry. Kyrie's worth that. He is. Gotta go.
Give Stephen A. piece of your mind.
He is sorry.
Call him weekdays from 1 till 3 Eastern.
I mean, just trash.
At 866-729-3776.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it.
Let's go to Wendell in L.A. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, greetings, Stephen A. Man, I like that William Devon you played in the background.
No doubt.
And now, Stephen, this is just my own personal opinion, but I think the NFL should restructure the office of the commissioner and get like a 5-member committee and call it a commission. You know, maybe you have like a couple of ex-players.
For what purpose?
Well, to hand down suspensions and fines. Instead of putting the onus on just one person, you would have a 5-member committee. 2 ex-players maybe, one person that was in the upper management, and you would a diverse cross-section of people in there. I mean, because like I said, I don't knock the job that Goodell is doing, but I think it'd be better off if I would embrace more diversity as far as someone actually overseeing the whole NFL operation.
Well, everybody feels that way. In terms of power being stripped of Roger Goodell, he shouldn't be, in the influential position that he's in. Not to this degree, but again, it was collectively bargained, and that's something that the Players Association surrendered, and that was the mistake that they made. And by the way, how come nobody asked this question, Wendell? What the hell was the Players Association doing signing a 10-year collective bargaining deal with the NFL anyway?
That's another story. That's the NFL players need new leadership also. I'm thinking people like Alan Page, Chris Collinsworth could probably step in either position and do a more admirable job.
Got you. Appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. Drew, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, man.
Hey, Stephen A. Thanks for taking my call. Long-time listener. I wanted to touch on the Kyrie situation right quick. About a week ago on First Take, you had said that LeBron James would be under more pressure after the trade, assuming that it goes through. But correct. I actually think that I'm sorry?
I said correct.
Yes, I actually think that Kyrie would be under more pressure, and here's why. I think that the city that he's going into, they demand championships. They demand excellence out of everybody. You go in Boston, you see all the Raptors and everything else, and they're thinking that Kyrie is going to be the second coming of the championships that they've had. LeBron, he's going to have...
That is false. They don't believe that, but go ahead. That's false. They don't believe that, but go ahead.
Okay. And then LeBron, they a lot of people are already saying they're not really expecting him to beat the Warriors, even if he has this squad that he has. So I just don't think that he would be under nearly as much pressure as Kyrie. And I just think
here's why I disagree with you. Number one, even with Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving, the expectation is that Boston would be the dominant team once LeBron James decides to take his talents elsewhere following next season. That's number one. Number two, because Cleveland is better due to the deal, assuming everybody is healthy, even though Golden State is your favorite, LeBron's the best player in the world. And because he's the best player in the world and clearly would be with a better team now than he was last year, there are those that are going to look at him and say, we don't give a damn that we put somebody else as the favorite. What you going to do about it? Because you're the best in the world, and you got an army of ball players that can get it done for you. What's your problem? Don't think for 1 second they won't ask him that.
I got you. Yeah, I just think that there's going to be a lot of pressure on Kyrie if he doesn't deliver in Boston.
No, he's going to have to play well, but he could lose to Cleveland because they're still considered an inferior team. Thanks a lot. Let's go to Cam. You're live with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up, man?
Hey, Stephen A., what's going on, man?
I'm good. Talk to me.
There's no man questions today, but I have a question about the Zeke Elliott. I know all week you've preference about if Zeke Elliott suspended, you see the Giants winning the division. I'm an Eagles fan. What does the Eagles have to do to get your respect?
Well, Doug Peterson is my question mark. I like Carson Wentz a lot. I'm wondering what they're going to do with their backfield. I mean, when Lane Johnson went down on the offensive line last year, they didn't know what to do. I like Alshon Jeffrey. I don't know if it was worth getting rid of Jordan Matthews. And I just look at them, and I say the talent is there. They can get it done, but I do think that the Giants are just better because I think their passing attack is elite, and I think their defense is relatively better. And the Cowboys in that formidable running game can be nightmarish for everybody. That's where I'm at.
Okay. Okay, and this is not a non-football sports question, but I'm expecting the little girl any day now, and my wife and I are torn between names. I maybe just want your opinion. Do you like Cambry Ray or Cambry Reagan?
Why I gotta be Cambry? Why I gotta be Cambry? That's what I'm saying. Why I gotta be Cambry? Where'd that come from? I'm interested in knowing where'd that come from.
Well, my name's Kamari, and Cambry is one of those things where like we want to add part of my name to it. Like I have a daughter named Rose, so she likes Rose. So I didn't want to name my baby after another flower.
How about Cambry Angel?
I like that. I like that a lot.
How about Cambry Angel as a middle name? Because after all, is that your first daughter?
Second daughter. This is my second.
Okay. Because you know what? Angel and Princess always works for me when it comes to little ladies. It's something in their name, and when you put that up in there, it reminds them of how valuable they are and how valuable they should be to any man that encounters them, because their father is going to love them dearly, and she's going to be precious to you. And anybody that comes into her life after you had better recognize that she needs to be treated special. That's why you give her names like that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
No problem. Have a nice day. I'm Love Doc. Now get on out of here. That's Mart Large, y'all. Let's be stealing from Mart Large. 866-729-ESPN is the number to call up. That's 866-729-3776. About 15 minutes past the hour. Dan Rafael, boxing writer extraordinaire for ESPN and ESPN.com. He will be on the line with us talking about Saturday night's fight between Mayweather and McGregor. And, of course, I got more to get into in regards to Ezekiel Elliott, into the Kyrie trade, and Art Briles and the University of Baylor. Stay tuned. Lots to get into. Hour number 2 up next.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app.
Check out ESPN Films' newly released 30 for 30 podcasts. From the producers of our award-winning documentary series, this is an amazing collection of sports stories you need to hear to believe. Speaking of amazing, Delta Airlines and the Fly Delta app make your travel experience amazingly easy with real-time bag tracking, e-boarding, and passport scanning during check-in. And don't forget to download 30 for 30 podcasts to fill your flight with stories that will keep you coming back for more.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Hour number 2. The Stephen A. Smith Show here with you for the next hour or so over the airways of ESPN Radio, Sirius XM, Channel 80. Number to call up as always is 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. Looking at a tweet. It's rare that I get to look at my tweets during the show, but I lucked up and did it this time. Kevin Crawford at Kev_Craw tweeted 30 minutes ago, the young lady in the draft night picture is the same young lady Ezekiel Elliott allegedly assaulted. Not a random hookup. Okay, I didn't know. So when the caller called up and was talking about he was with somebody on draft night, I didn't know that was the same lady. Had no clue. Just want to make sure I didn't know that. Have no clue whatsoever. It still doesn't change my position on Ezekiel Elliott, though. I stand by what I said. Staying on football, before we get to Dan Rafael at about 15 minutes past the hour, talking to us about the boxing event from Saturday night with Mayweather and McGregor. Matthew Stafford is now the highest paid, has the highest annual salary in NFL history. $27 million he's getting paid. $90 million in guaranteed. A new $135 million deal. Let me say this about the quarterback that threw for 4,300 plus yards last year, 24 touchdowns, just 10 interceptions, 8 fourth quarter comebacks. And by the way, he's got a lot of comeback victories on his resume throughout the years. Let me say this about Matthew Stafford. I have nothing against him. I think he's a hell of a quarterback. I think that he can really play. And I think last year, when you consider how suspect the offensive line was, how they had the 30th ranked rushing attack in the NFL, particularly since Amir Abdullah went down in game 2. I get it. I totally understand. Here's my problem. I don't give a damn if it's a penny less. I got a problem with the highest paid player in the NFL being somebody that's been a quarterback for 8 years in the NFL and has never won a playoff game. I just have a problem with that. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he don't deserve $27 million. I'm saying if he's getting $27 million, give me somebody that gets 27.1. Who's actually won in a postseason. I don't like rewards for mediocrity when it counts. I don't like it. And when I think about Matthew Stafford, unfortunately, that's what I'm forced to think about at this moment in time. I'm thinking about a Lions quarterback or a quarterback for the Detroit Lions who haven't won a playoff game since 1991. I'm thinking about a guy who's been there 8 full years and only made the playoffs 3 times. I'm thinking about all 3 times they lost in the playoffs, so they never won a playoff game, period. That's what I'm thinking about. And then I'm saying $27 million? Highest paid quarterback in the NFL? Really? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. One of the other things that I wanted to do, as my producers get me that final take, I wanted to give my man Max Kellerman some props. He did a final take today on a catastrophe that's taking place, Hurricane Harvey in Houston, Texas, and its surrounding areas. It's ravaged that area. So many people need our help, our love, our support. We should all be willing to give what we can. But I wanted to play Max Kellerman's final take for y'all. Just wanted y'all to hear this and share it with y'all because I think it was a very poignant message on his part, and it deserves our attention. Listen to Max Kellerman on First Take this morning.
Who's your favorite football player right now? Personally, I tend to favor the kind of player who toils bravely and selflessly for the betterment of the New York Football Giants and their millions of righteous and devoted fans. And the special designation of favorite can vary. Wide receiver David Tyree spent more than a minute as my guy about 10 years ago. Know what I mean? But right now, my number one guy is a different kind of giant. He's a Texan. As you know, the remnants of Hurricane Harvey continue to dump unprecedented and unmanageable amounts of rain on the Texas Gulf Coast, the city of Houston, and soon the state of Louisiana. The stories and images of heroic people risking their own safety for the safety of neighbors and of perfect strangers are nothing less than inspiring. Things are bad down there, and those life-threatening conditions have brought out the very best in people. And one of those people is Houston Texans superstar J.J. Watt. He donated $100,000 to support rescue and relief efforts in Houston. $100,000. New Rocket Chris Paul stepped up with $50,000. And Watt's initiative has now led to more than $1 million donated so far by people like you. That's leadership. The people of that region would surely rather be thinking and talking and arguing about football than dealing with the devastation around them. But now's not the time. For those of us with the good fortune to have time to carry on with our normal routines, this is a good time to remember what's really important about being a neighbor and a countryman. It's not about football games or basketball trades. It's about having each other's backs. There are a ton of ways for each of us to help. We'll put links up on our social handles. However you can help, whichever organization you choose to support, take a minute today and do it. Millions of you already have. And you know how right and good it feels. So, yeah, there will soon come a time when Odell Beckham or Eli Manning or maybe Landon Collins, the way he's been playing, is back to being my favorite football player. But right now, while the whole country gets together to help out the people of Southeast Texas, I'm a J.J. Watt guy.
That was my brother, my man, Max Kellerman, doing this thing on Final Take today on First Take. Proud of him. He's absolutely right. Anything that we can do. You know, think about it. Think about the GoFundMe accounts that exist out there and people trying to generate funds to help those in need ravaged by Hurricane Harvey. Just think about that and do what you can. 866-729-ESPN. That's 866-729-3776. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing that's transpiring even in the face of this catastrophe. Because at a time we're just weeks removed from being as divided as a nation as we've appeared to be in quite a long time. Here we are, extending a helping hand in an effort to uplift so many others so desperately in need, showing the true spirit of America and what we really, really stand for. 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama, was down in Houston on the streets helping folks out. He shouldn't be alone. And he isn't. 866-729-ESPN. It's 866-729-3776. Let's go back to the phone. Let's go to Stretch in Chicago. You're live with Stephen A. Long time no hear, buddy. How you doing, my man?
What's up, Stephen A.? How you feel, man?
I'm good, man. Thanks for calling. Go ahead, bro.
Man, this Danny Ainge on Isaiah Thomas, man.
Yep.
You need to go and do right by him. Because there's no way they'd have won that series against us without Isaiah Thomas coming back after his sister
Yeah,
died.
that's true, but it's a little bit too late for that, bro.
Well,
you're
what
ready
I'm getting at is it's a domino effect.
Okay.
Just hear me out on this. He came back. They won the series. They went on to beat Washington. They played Cleveland. So Danny Ainge said, okay, we got something going on here. So then he was able to pull the trade with Gordon Hayward. Once he was able to pull the trade with Gordon Hayward, he said, oh, man, I got the player who I wanted anyway. My whole take on it is if he would have never came back and showed some loyalty to Danny Ainge in Game 3 of our series, he would have never had a chance to get Gordon Hayward because Gordon Hayward said, oh, man, we good.
Stop right there. Stop right there. Stretch, I'm here for you, bro. You're wrong. Gordon Hayward played in college at Butler for Brad Stevens. No matter what happened, he was going to Boston. I'm telling you what I know. He was coming to Boston. So that's not true. And secondly, Stretch, Isaiah Thomas is underpaid. That's absolutely true. But he wasn't playing for free, bro. He still had a job to do. He's getting paid $6 million. He still had a job to do. So I don't want to hear this, well, you know what? Appreciate this, man. When he's a free agent, you got to pay him. But if he's under contract, he's got a job to do, and he's supposed to do it. Wouldn't you say that, Stretch? Yeah, but see, here's the thing. There's a difference between this. I'm coming from this perspective. Derrick Rose was hurt every year when they lost that first round series against Philly when he tore his ACL. Okay. John Paxson did right by Derrick Rose. And where'd that get him? Stretch? Where'd that get him, Stretch?
This is what you're talking about, loyalty, Stephen A.
No. I asked you a question. Oh, no. Don't give me emotion. I want fact. Where did that get y'all? You right there in Chicago. Where did giving Derrick Rose that contract get y'all?
This what he got. Derrick Rose put out everything. What I'm getting at is this here.
Come on, Stretch. You dancing.
Everything.
You dancing. You dancing, bro.
The career. What I'm getting at is he got us to the finals to play with LeBron. Danny Ainge. I mean, not Danny Ainge.
Whoa. No. Derrick Rose did that before he got hurt, not after. When he got hurt, he got hurt. So what I'm saying to you is that, and by the way, he signed for $90 million before he went down, not after. What I'm saying to you is this. Where would that have gotten them had they given Derrick Rose the money after he got hurt?
We was going to take care. We take care of our people's job.
Come on, bro. No. Stretch, I got to go. We got to talk another time. You being emotional. You're not being factual, bro. You're not being factual. And you're not being practical. You got a cap. You give money to a dude that ain't healthy. You taking it away from someone who is. That's just the truth. I mean, this ain't church, bro. This is business. That's just the way it is. You got to get the leverage and exercise the leverage while you got it. Stop acting like people are old. It ain't that simple. I'm not saying sometimes it don't apply, but it ain't that simple. 866-729-ESPN. Dan Rafael, boxing writer extraordinaire, up next with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio.
Catch the Stephen A. Smith Show live on 98.7 ESPN New York, ESPN LA 710, and Sirius XM Channel 80.
You just can't make this stuff up.
Weekdays from 1 till 3 Eastern.
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Longtime listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
It's always my honor and privilege to have my next guest on the line. Boxing writer extraordinaire for ESPN, ESPN.com. Does a phenomenal job of covering the sport. I'm talking about my man Dan Rafael. He's on the line with yours truly right now. What's going on, big boy? How are you, man? How's everything?
Stephen A., everything is good. I'm rested and recharged from a big week in Vegas.
How big of a week was it for you, considering how much you love and cherish and know about this sport of boxing, and how suspect it was coming into the event because Conor McGregor was a UFC fighter? How do you view the weekend?
I mean, it was a big week. I have to be honest, though, in terms of like the overall atmosphere and the overall intensity of the fans and just the hype, I didn't feel it as much as I have had for other fights, even though it may end up breaking the pay-per-view record. We don't have those numbers quite yet. But don't get me wrong, it was a big event. But, like, for example, like the weigh-in, it was a scene, but it wasn't the same kind of scene as I was at for, say, Hatton versus Mayweather. Granted, it was in a smaller space, but that was absolutely as intense as it gets. Mayweather-Pacquiao, which filled up the entirety of the Grand Garden Arena. Mayweather-Canelo-Alvarez, which filled up the entirety of the arena as well. But it was a big event. I had somewhat low expectations for the fight, so it actually exceeded my expectations because it turned out to be decent. But what I found to be funny about it was I heard from a lot of people who hadn't really watched a lot of boxing, friends of mine and my wife at home, who were really into it, who had really couldn't look forward to buying it and watching it, who came away going, "That was great, that was great." I'm like, man, I'm glad you liked it, because now what's going to happen if those people decide to give a better fight on paper a chance that turns out to be a great fight, like, say, for example, the Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez fight? Then you'll really know what real top-level boxing is. So I'm happy that the people who bought the fight didn't walk away from it disappointed, thinking like they wasted their money or I'm never going to buy another fight in my life. But for those of us who really know what good boxing is, that was not good boxing.
I looked at Mayweather. I never saw him look worse in my estimation. I think that I'm glad that he announced that he's retiring, that he seems as serious as ever, that he will not fight anymore, because I think one of these young lions would have knocked Mayweather out based off of how he looked this past Saturday night. What about you?
That is basically exactly what I wrote in my Monday column, which is that Mayweather, for the first time ever, showed his age. The layoff was there. I mean, I'll give you an example. When he came back after like about a 16-month layoff or so to fight Juan Manuel Marquez, he looked as good as he ever looked in his entire life. Like, he never missed a day in the gym, like it was just business as usual. And that was against a Hall of Fame fighter, granted a guy who was coming up a little bit in weight, but nonetheless a tremendous all-time great Mexican fighter like Juan Manuel Marquez, multiple weight class division champion, been in some of the biggest fights. He looked great. Against McGregor, didn't look so good. Those legs looked a little rickety, looked a little old, took some shots, and Floyd can say all he wants that was by design, that he wanted to make up for the Pacquiao stinker, that he was going to go forward and make it a real fight. But you know what? When you get to be 40 and you're coming off a 2-year layoff, those legs don't allow you to do the things that you wanted to do. So that's why older fighters sometimes make for better fights, because they're forced to stand and mix it up a little bit more than if they still had that great speed and reflexes, which Floyd still has some of, obviously. He's still a fantastic athlete, but it's not what it was not that long ago. And he even said, I'm not the same fighter I was 20 years or 10 years ago or even 2 years ago. So I don't believe for one moment that Floyd purposely let the guy hit him, because that's never been Floyd's game, and old dogs don't change their spots. That's just a fact of life. Now, he was able to disguise that perhaps slippage because he was in with a guy that had no experience and really didn't know what he was doing in the boxing ring. So it turned out to be a little bit of a better fight. Now, I also am of the opinion, to at least a small degree, that he carried the man a little bit because he didn't want people to walk away from his last fight, yelling bad things and saying they were disgusted with what had occurred. So I do think he might have been able to take him out a little bit sooner if he wanted to. Once he had him under control, that's what he did. He took his time and he took him out the way he should have.
Do you believe that Conor McGregor should ever get in a boxing ring again or should go back to the UFC permanently and not even think about it?
I think it should be about how much money he can make for whichever fights are offered to him. So if he can make another huge boatload of money to do a boxing match, why not?
I guess what I was talking about, Dan, I guess what I was talking about was in terms of his skill set. Because, for example, had he been in the ring against any of those young lions that I talked about, they'd have took him out inside of 4 rounds. They wouldn't have missed as many shots as Floyd Money Mayweather missed. That's the way I view it. What about you?
I agree, which is why my perspective on whether he should box again would have to be depending on what the situation is with the opponent. So, for example, if there was a serious movement to make a fight between Conor and Malignaggi, for example, okay, I can see that. It would probably sell, not to the level or the degree of a Mayweather fight, but there would be a lot of hype, there would be a lot of discussion. Paulie can talk the way just as good as any other trash talker out there, and there would probably be some intrigue in that fight. But as far as him getting in the ring and fighting a Triple G or a Canelo or an Errol Spence or a Keith Thurman, no, forget about that. I mean, those are fights that are literally not winnable, in my opinion. If you thought the Mayweather fight was not winnable, he's not beating a Canelo, a Triple G, an Errol Spence, guys like that. In fact, one of the things I wrote in the piece I referenced in my Monday post, second day after column about was, as I said, Mayweather could disguise the slippage because he was in with such a fundamentally unsound opponent. But imagine if Mayweather on Saturday night had been in the ring with Gennady Golovkin or an Errol Spence. Those fights would not go well for Mayweather, given what I saw Saturday night. So he was smart. Floyd did the right look. Floyd did the perfect thing. He was comfortable in retirement after the Berto fight. This fight came up. It came out. He said, "What the heck? I can make 200 some million, maybe more, 250, whatever the final number is going to be."
He said over 350 million. Right. He said over $350 million. That's what he said he was going to make for that one night's work. So Dan Rafael right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. Let's transition because Oscar De La Hoya has made some news, Dan Rafael, because he thought the fight was a farce and he's been going off about it. He's got the promotions for Triple G versus Gennady Golovkin. Triple G versus Canelo on September 16th, which anybody that loves the sport of boxing and then some is looking forward to. I can't wait for that fight. But why is Oscar De La Hoya opening his mouth? A, and B, how do you feel about him denigrating another promotion, another fight? Your thoughts?
Unfortunately, in boxing, there's a lot of backbiting between promoters. It's not new. It's not anything that's new. If you go back into the 90s and the 80s, you'd hear there'd be some fight that would be being put on by Top Rank and Bob Arum, and Don King would take hits at it, or there'd be a Don King fight and Bob Arum would take hits at it. That's just the nature of the beast. They're competitive against one another the same way the boxers are. And I think Oscar also felt the fact that the fight was 3 weeks before his big fight with Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez, that it was damaging his promotion, which means money out of everybody's pocket. So he was frustrated and he lashed out, and he's had nothing good to say about the Mayweather-McGregor fight since day one. He put out a tweet on the day of the fight with 4-letter words that we wouldn't want to say on the radio. But part of that, in addition to venting his own frustrations, he got some publicity for his own fight because people were talking about what he wrote. So it did help him in that sense. And then, of course, once the fight was over Saturday night, they wasted absolutely no time. They have 3 weeks to get this thing to high gear. They started exactly on Monday with the two fighters doing an open workout in front of 1,000, 1,500 people in a real nice setting at LA Live in downtown Los Angeles, right across the street from the Staples Center, where both guys did their workouts. They got a lot of media coverage on that, both in terms of articles and videos and stuff like that. So if you're a boxing fan and you don't know about Canelo Alvarez against Gennady Golovkin, then you've been hiding under a rock for the last year and a half or so. I think with 3 weeks to go, his fight's going to do just fine, but I think he was taking it a little personal. He has no love lost for Floyd Mayweather to begin with, going back to the deal they cut for their 2007 fight that it broke all the records at the time that have since been broken by the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight, as well as what may be even in the future with the numbers that come in on this McGregor fight. So, look, Oscar, he was being a little emotional, but he'll get over it.
What about the principled position that he may have been coming from, where as a world-class fighter and a 10-time champion, his belief is that if you're 49-0 and recognized as one of the greatest to ever do this, why are you allowing somebody who's never fought as a boxer professionally to even get in the ring with you? What about that principled position? Any shot that was motivation for what he said?
I mean, it's possible, but I mean, that's not Floyd's problem. I mean, that's on the commission. I mean, I felt like when the fight was made, and I voiced my opinion in a column, and I actually had a conversation with members of the Nevada Commission just to get their take on it. I didn't feel like the fight should be sanctioned, frankly, because knowing the way that they break the stones of matchmakers in Las Vegas, like when you're building, like they have let's say you have a 3-0 prospect that was in the Olympics, for example, and you're getting his feet wet as a professional, and you're building up his record, and you want to put him in with a guy that's like 2-1, but maybe hasn't faced the best competition. They may not let you do that fight. They're really, really hard about certain matches that get done on these cards. So now they look like absolute hypocrites because they allowed Floyd Mayweather, 49-0, one of the greatest fighters in the history of the sport, the best fighter of his era, a guy that's going to walk into the Hall of Fame, to take on a guy that's making his pro boxing debut. So now they're hypocrites. And when they talk about it's only about the health and safety of the fighters, I have a hard time believing that. So, they went after the money. I'm not saying it's the commission's fault. They have a boss, he's the governor of Nevada. Obviously, that fight generated untold amount of riches for Clark County and for Las Vegas and all the businesses that are there, the casinos and the restaurants and the cab drivers and the Uber drivers and you name it. But they did not cover themselves with glory in that fight by approving it. Now, thankfully, nothing bad happened. Conor fought his heart out. The stoppage was good. The referee, Robert Byrd, did a good job handling that situation. But it's going to make you think, not only that, by the way, but the fact that once they approved the fight, then the fact that they let them go in the smaller gloves, that was another reason to look down on the commission. But again, all of these issues, that's not on Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather could have brought them the bout, and they could have said no. But who's saying no to all that money?
Dan Rafael right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio. Before I let you get on out of here, who do you have, Triple G or Canelo? Your early prediction.
Great fight. Love the fight. I'll put it like this. When it was first brought up, back maybe 2 years ago or so, when the concept of the fight was there, I loved Triple G in that fight. Thought it would definitely be a big Triple G victory. In the time that has passed, Canelo Alvarez has, I think, gotten better as a fighter. He's started to use he's become a two-handed fighter. He throws a lot more and better combinations now. And Triple G, even though he's still near the top, he has shown maybe a tiny little bit of slippage based on how he got hit against Kell Brook, based on a little bit of struggle against Danny Jacobs, both victories. I think that Canelo is a much more of a live dog now than I did a year ago. So while I still like Golovkin to win the fight, Canelo Alvarez, if he does win, I'll be much, much less surprised than I would have been a year and a half ago.
Dan, keep up the great work, buddy. Always appreciate you, man. Thanks so much.
All right, Stephen. It was good to see you in Vegas.
All right, same here, buddy. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I'll be at this next fight. I can promise you that. Take it easy, buddy. The one and only Dan Rafael, boxing writer extraordinaire for ESPN, right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. You heard him tell you his column, his Monday column. It's on ESPN.com. Make sure you go check it out.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Before I get back to the phones, let me say this. Art Briles, former coach at Baylor, was recently hired to be an offensive coach in Canada. And within 12 hours or so, he was relieved because of an uproar about folks, essentially bringing him on board. June Jones, former coach at SMU at Hawaii, knew Art Briles, brought him on board, tried to give him a chance. University wasn't, not the university, but Canadian football team, Hamilton. They weren't having it. They didn't want any parts of him. Art Briles is the former head football coach. He started at Baylor in 2007. He was fired on May 6, 2016, in the wake of the Pepper-Hamilton report. About a month and 10 days later, on June 16th, Briles filed a motion accusing Baylor of conflict of interest and wrongful termination, but he withdrew it a day later and settled all contractual matters with Baylor, which announced the settlement a week later. Jim Grove replaced him as the interim head coach and led the team through last season. But on December 8th, Temple's Matt Rule was named the new head coach, replacing Grove. Briles later filed a libel lawsuit against the school, but dropped it in February of 2017. Essentially, he was relieved of his duties, primarily based on negligence, gross negligence, because on numerous occasions, he was approached about sexual assault being committed by his players and did close to nothing about it. Yesterday, I was on the air and I basically said I had no problem with him getting the job. Here's why I had no problem with him getting the job. Number one, it was professional sports. It was in Canada, and he's not a head coach. And my attitude is if you're not in jail, you need a job, because if you don't have a job but you're not in jail, you become our problem as a society. That's just my overall belief. Having said that, however, I'm not going to lose any sleep over the fact that Art Briles can't find a job, because I understand what he did was egregious. Here's my thing, though. I'm wondering why everybody stops at Art Briles when it comes to Baylor. Ladies and gentlemen, you remember that scandal involving basketball player Patrick Dennehy, who was murdered by teammate Carlton Dotson? And there was an alleged cover-up by Coach Dave Bliss trying to paint Dennehy as a drug dealer to hide the fact that he was giving him funds under the table to be a part of Baylor's program? How about this fact? President Kenneth Starr was fired. Athletic Director Ian McCord was forced to resign. Associate AD Tom Hill was fired. Head of football operations Colin Schellinglaw was fired. Title IX coordinator Patty Crawford, she resigned. And in 2017, January of this year, another former Baylor Title IX officer, Gabrielle Lyons, told Outside the Line she left Baylor in November 2015 after senior administrators ignored her and other investigative complaints that they were short-staffed and needed mental health services to cope with the emotional stress of having to hear so many stories of abuse. Ladies and gentlemen, that doesn't seem like a university problem to you? We're stopping at the football coach when the president's gone, the AD's gone, the associate AD is gone. Title IX administrators are gone. Everywhere you turned at Baylor, even a women's basketball coach stuck her chest out, was talking about, hey, the hell with everybody. Baylor's a great university, blah, 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 even though women were being sexually assaulted. There have been 52 separate cases, allegations of rape. If there was ever a program that I think warrants consideration for the death penalty, I would think it's at Baylor. I really would. So that's just the way I look at it in terms of, I'm not saying Art Briles isn't a problem. I'm saying the problem appears to go far deeper than him. Why are we acting like it doesn't? That's my issue. That's what needs to be said.
Want to be a part of the show? Hit Stephen A. up weekdays from 1 to 3 Eastern at 866-729-3776.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
A few minutes left here right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Let's get to the phones before we get on out of here. Let's go to Gio in Brooklyn. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, man.
Hey, Stephen. Well said about Baylor, by the way. I want to talk about two names in boxing, and then I'll give you my opinion on the fight. I want to see if you agree. A couple of weeks ago we spoke. I talked to you about Mikey Garcia against Broner. You said you hadn't seen the boy, but now
I saw him. I saw him that night. Very impressed with him. Very impressed with him. But here's the problem. Okay? I don't. If he fought Lomachenko at 135, I don't know if he would win.
That's where I was going.
And I think he's too small for Crawford.
Exactly. Now going
That's
to Crawford. Crawford is special, and
Yes.
I think Mayweather, even Mayweather in his prime, would have a hard time with Crawford. That said, I would love to see Crawford and Thurman. What do you think?
Well, we got to see Crawford move up to 147 and see how he handles 147.
He definitely wants to move up.
Well, he has to, because there's nobody else in this division for him to make money off of.
Okay. Now
that's the problem.
Okay. Now, my prediction on the Canelo and Triple G fight, I got Canelo winning that fight, and whoever wins that fight, I would love to see any of them fight one of the twins, the Charlo brothers. What do you think?
I like this kid Charlo. I'm talking about the one that just had the knockout. Which one is that?
I think he's the little bit of the bigger one out of they're twins, but one's a little bigger. I think that's Jamel. That's Jamel Charlo.
Jamel is his name. That's who I like. The undefeated knockout odds. I like Charlo a lot. I like him a lot. He's got potential. But isn't that junior middleweight?
No. It's.
Are you sure? I think let's talk about this tomorrow, but I think it's junior middleweight. But call me back about that tomorrow, man. Thanks a lot for the call. Let's go to Kay in Connecticut. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, man.
Hey, good afternoon, Steve. Hey, I got a question for you. I was a little, not upset, but a little felt different when you said Floyd Mayweather wouldn't be able to handle those guys. I just think
I'm just talking about
really
I'm talking about based on Saturday's performance. That's all. Don't get literal. In other words, how he looked Saturday. How he looks at that person that we saw Saturday. That's all I'm saying.
Yep. But no, I mean, I think as far as the winner of Triple G and Canelo, I really think Canelo has his fight because he has the package. He don't have the whole package, but he has the package.
You could be right, but I'm going with Triple G.
And what do you think if he calls out Floyd after that?
Excuse me?
What do you think if Canelo calls out Floyd after that?
No, Floyd is done. Floyd ain't fighting again, man. I've been talking to him for the last 3 weeks, man. He ain't fighting again. It's a wrap. I believe it's over. I would be shocked if especially after he just looked against Conor McGregor, I'd be shocked if Floyd fought again. I really, really would. Appreciate the call. Mel in Queens, you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead, Mel.
Hey, what's going on, Stephen A? I want to say that I believe that the Cavs so far got the better deal, with the Kyrie Irving situation. Right. I would love to see how, Isaiah Thomas would have looked with all the new pieces, but we're not going to get a chance to see that. But I would like to say that I keep hearing you say a lot that, if LeBron loses to Golden State, he's the best player in the world. And I get that. Yes, LeBron is the best player in the world. But a lot of time when we judge LeBron, we don't judge him the same way we judge Michael because Michael was supposed to be the best player for a long time. But he never beat any, real super teams. He lost to all the super teams and all the great teams. So all the teams he beat in the finals were teams that he was supposed to beat. None of those teams we could say, the Bulls were outmatched. So when we look at, Golden State last year with Kevin Durant or maybe Golden State this year or maybe LeBron's first year, when we judge the GOAT, I think we got to keep in consideration that as well and judge the way we judge Michael. Nobody expected Michael to be
Listen, Michael's the standard. I don't deviate from that. And as far as I'm concerned, if you 6 for 6 with 6 NBA Finals MVPs, you ain't got to worry about somebody who lost 5 NBA Finals usurping you. I don't believe it. Gotta go. Appreciate it. Marcus in Alabama, you're live with Stephen A. What's up, Marcus?
How you doing, Mr. Stephen A? Big fan. I just got one question for you.
Go ahead, buddy.
With the Patriots bringing in Stephon Gilmore and retaining the whole defense, do you see them being the best secondary in the NFL?
Potentially. With Gilmore and Malcolm Butler and chunging those boys at the safety spot, I definitely think it's possible. And then when you've got Tom Brady moving the chains, keeping them rested and off the field as well, even though I think the loss of Julian Edelman definitely is a huge blow to the Patriots, I still believe they're the best team in football. And they're the team to beat. Because think about this. They're the Super Bowl champions. Who had an off season like them, Marcus?
That's what I wanted to ask you. In your years of watching football, have you ever seen a Super Bowl winning team get better the next year?
It's not even about better. It's how dominant they were in free agency. I mean, listen, man, I just look at them to get Brandon Cooks and to get Stephon Gilmore. I mean, that's sensational work. Replacing Martellus Bennett, getting Rob Gronkowski back off an injury, okay? I just look at them, hey, I got to give credit where credit is due, man. And I just view the Patriots as being that formidable. I truly do, Marcus.
So you see them get another ring?
Possibly they're the favorites. They're the favorites. I don't see anybody in the AFC beating the Patriots. I do think Atlanta might have a shot to beat them if they face them again. I do believe that. I believe Seattle would probably beat them if they face them again. That's it. Not Green Bay because of their defense. Not Dallas. Maybe the Giants because of their passing attack and their defense and their history. But that's just the way I look at it. That's just me. Got to get on out of here, but I'll be back on the airwaves 22 hours from now. So hope to hear from you then. You'll definitely hear from me then. It's Stephen A. signing off. Until tomorrow. Peace and love.
That's just a